All right, welcome everyone. Um, Here we have a class that's about making Korean Bo Ssam at home. This is a traditional slow-cooked pork dish that's great for a crowd. If you have any questions, just type them into the Q&A box as we go along. Let's get started. So Bo Ssam is a traditional Korean dish, and what I'm presenting here today is an interpretation of that dish that was developed by Momofuku restaurant group and the chef David Chang. And so what he's done is he's sort of done a westernized version of the traditional Bo Ssam, which is usually a boiled meat. So here we're roasting the meat, and what that does is it gives the pork, which is what we're using here, is pork shoulder. It gives it a really great crispy outside, tender inside. So it's a little bit of a twist on a traditional Bo Ssam, and it's quite delicious and really easy to do. It does take a little bit of time preparation in advance. So the first thing is you're going to want to get a hold of some pork shoulder. So Ssam in Korean, it simply means wrapped or packaged. So what the Ssam sauce, which we're going to be making, is a wrap sauce, basically. So what we're looking at here is a nice hunk of meat and then several things that you can kind of throw in there with it and then wrap in a lettuce leaf or a cabbage leaf or a tortilla or a steamed buns are really great with this. If you want to, often I'll make like steamed buns and use that with this recipe. And that's what they did at Momofuku. They made little sandwiches with steamed buns, which were quite popular and are quite popular. But anyway, so you want to get some nice pork. Here I have our own brand, Silver Sage Farms, all natural pork, which I picked up at a basics market. And this here is about a 2.5 pound piece of boneless pork shoulder. So what I've done with this recipe is I basically translated it to fit a smaller like home setting. You can do this in a larger scale. It's often done with a like 9 pound pork shoulder bone in. And that just, if you do that, same process, it's just going to take a little longer to cook, obviously. But this is sort of a slow and low cook. You want that really tender, juicy pork, right? So anyway, get yourself some nice pork shoulder the day before you're planning on eating this. And so one thing that is fun to learn about here is the dry brine. So this is a great example of dry brining. And one of my favorite dry brines is simply salt and sugar and 50-50. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We have a couple tablespoons of salt and a couple tablespoons of sugar. Now I'm using kosher salt, which is great for this application, and just some granulated sugar, and mix this all together. Now this is more than you need, but what I do is I keep a jar of this 50-50 mix in my kitchen because it's great for brining chicken, turkey, all that stuff. And dry brines are preferable to wet brines because in a wet brine, you'll have like maybe the salt sugar solution, but you're going to be diluting it in water, and that's going to take away a lot of the flavor of the meat. So what a dry brine does is it's going to pull the juices out of the meat, and then those juices are going to be reabsorbed. So what the salt does is it pulls the juices out and it opens up a lot of the cells in the meat and opens up a lot of those proteins that tend to get hard while cooking. And then while it's brining, it will reabsorb all that salt as well as the sugar along with it and the juices from the meat. So instead of holding a bunch of just water, you're actually getting the juice, and then that's flavor, right? So you're not introducing extra hydration from water. So what I'm doing here, you want to just, and pardon the glove, it's just because I can't wash my hands up here, but so I have a glove, but you just want to really coat liberally your piece of pork here on all sides and get a good coating. But you know, like I mentioned, you're going to have leftover, and that's fine. You just want to get it all over, get all the nooks and crannies. And then this is covered and put in the refrigerator for 6 hours. So you could do this in the morning and it would be ready by the evening. Or overnight is ideal. So do this the night before you're planning on eating the Bo Ssam. All right. So you can see I've got a good liberal dry rub of 50% salt and 50% sugar on here. And then you just want to cover this. So I'm using this little casserole here, which is perfect because I have a lid and I can cover it and then put it in the refrigerator. Now you can just, you know, you could have this in a bowl, you could have it in whatever, it'll fit, and then cover it with a plate or a plastic wrap, tin foil, something. Get it in the refrigerator, let it brine overnight. And what you'll find in the morning is it will have given off some juice, and that's fine. And you don't want to rinse it or anything like that because you don't want all that stuff you want on the outside, because that's going to give you a nice crust. Okay, so that's the first step. And we're really halfway there. So with this dish, you're going to be producing a couple of sauces, which are really nice to accompany it. And then also I'm going to recommend having some kimchi with it. Again, this is a Korean dish, and Korean food is one of my favorite genres, my favorite cuisines. It has such depth of flavor and a lot of great like chili counterpoints, a lot of fermentation, and just a really, really delicious cuisine, and always a joy to cook Korean food. So with the pork, let's say that is it's brining overnight, right? Next day, you pull it out, and you're going to go ahead and with this this deal here, I could just pop this right in the oven because it's a nice oven-proof casserole, uncovered. Or I could transfer it to like a skillet or another pan. So I'll just go ahead and put this in the oven. And so this would go, or oven-esque, and then this would go for about a piece of pork about that size, 2.5 pounds will go a couple hours. Really the temperature it's going to get up there, it's going to be over 175, 180, maybe even 200 degrees. But what you're looking for is just a really nice, soft, almost pork that you can separate with your fingers and fall apart. If need be, you can tent it a little bit with tin foil, something like that, if it starts to get too dark on top. Now, after it's cooked, it's going to look something like this. So after it's cooked, you can actually let it set, and you could even put it in the refrigerator if it's early in the day still and you're not planning on using it for a while, because there's a second cooking step, and that involves some brown sugar. So this is a tablespoon of brown sugar, and I'm just going to rub this all over the surface of the nicely cooked pork, and it already has a beautiful coating. And I have served this recipe, without this final step, but this really kicks it in nicely. You get a lot of caramelization from this, and it's just super duper tasty. Okay, so we've got now the cooked pork, right? It's all cooked. I put the brown sugar rub on it, and then I have an oven at 500 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and pop it in there for probably about 15 minutes or so. And we'll have a look, and it might go a little quicker, and because I do have these crazy ovens in this kitchen, which things go pretty quick. So we'll see. I better keep an eye on it, right? So I'm going to put this in the oven, and we'll let that just get a nice caramelization. And then here's my excess 50-50 salt sugar brine, and I'll just reserve that for my next briny project. All right. So now we have some time to look at our accompaniments. The ginger scallion sauce is quite a delightful sauce. And again, this is something I've learned from Momofuku Restaurant Group. And if you're not familiar with Momofuku, it's a restaurant that started in New York, and now it has locations all over, and it's sort of a food group, I'd say now. And today I was revisiting their website, and it's very inspiring. Check it out. There's tons of great recipes. They're still talking about Bo Ssam stuff, and it's a great resource for recipes and exploring food in general. And I'd highly recommend having a look. So anyway, the ginger scallion sauce is a classic sauce. This sauce is great for all kinds of meats, fish, tofu, noodles, just straight on to noodles. It's delicious, and it's so simple. We're just going to use some green onions, and we want 1 1/4 cups or so, and we're going to thinly slice these. So what I've done is I've just given the green onions a good wash, and then I peel off the outer layer, which is sometimes a little raggedy or dirty. And then I just get a good grouping of the onions, and I have 1 1/4 cups here, and I'm just going to fill these up. So what we're going to do is cut these thin, slice them thin, and then both the white and the green part, and mix it with ginger, a little bit of neutral oil, and a little bit of rice vinegar. And this sauce holds really well, and it's even in some ways better the next day. Everything's sort of marinated together, married flavors. And again, it's just useful sauce to have around for a condiment. And then this whole situation, if you have leftovers, it's perfect for the famous Korean dish made of leftovers called bibimbap. And bibimbap is, you just use all these components, but put it over a bowl of rice, so you can use your leftover pork and put that on some rice, put your kimchi, put your sauces, and then often bibimbap, you'll fry an egg and put that on there. And then the Ssam sauce, which we're making, is a great bibimbap sauce. And we'll talk a little bit about the Ssam sauce and the Zhang family of flavoring pastes in a second here, so get this sauce sorted. All right, so there we have 1¼ cups of green onions, a little extra. And then we're going to need 1/4 cup of ginger. So some nice fresh ginger root. Ginger, as you know, we come across it here and there throughout our classes. And I like to use ginger a lot. It's really good for you and has great flavor. And so an easy way to peel ginger is just simply with a spoon, and just go ahead and run the spoon over the peel. I've rinsed the ginger a little bit, and then I peel it. And you know, if you're using organic ginger, and you don't mind the peel, you don't even have to peel it, but peeling makes it a little bit smoother for eating. And maybe a little bit more. And with the spoon, that peel pops right off. And because this is organic ginger, I'm not going to worry about a little bit of peel in there, a little bit of roughage, right? So this dish, you know, you're getting ginger here, and you're getting nice ginger in your kimchi.
Chef Sam, do you have any suggestions on the best way to store ginger?
You know, I don't know a really great trick, but it holds up very well just in a even like a paper bag if it's unpeeled and you know you don't want to rinse it ahead of time or anything like that. In your crisper. And ginger, it lasts quite a while refrigerated. It's pretty hardy, and even if it does start to get a little, sometimes you'll get a little bit of mold on the outside if it's been in there quite some time, and you can usually just cut that off and it's still useful. Yeah, you know, you just want to kind of keep it dry and cool. So refrigerated, and then kind of like you treat mushrooms, where you keep them in like a paper bag in your refrigerator. And so here we have a pretty good whack of ginger, right? It's a whole 1/4 cup. And you want to just mince this up really fine. You could grate it also, I suppose, and even get it like finer. But these having it just minced is kind of nice too, texture wise. All right, let's see what we got. So while I'm cutting this ginger, I'm going to pull out this jar of kimchi. So kimchi is an important part of eating this dish, and kimchi is used in Korea. It's eaten with every meal pretty much. Great condiment. It's made from most commonly Napa cabbage and a special Korean chili, and it's a chili powder, and ginger and garlic. But you can really kimchi any vegetable in it. I'm going to check that pork while I'm thinking of it. So here's the 1/4 cup of ginger going in there. But you can find local kimchis, and that's a good way to go if you're not making it yourself. But it is really fun to make, and it's a great lacto ferment. So again, it has all the health benefits like a sauerkraut. All right, and sure enough, this went pretty nice and quick, so that's ready to roll. And now we could tent that with some foil, the pork there, and it would be good. You can kind of let it rest. You want to let it rest a few minutes anyway, because you're going to be serving this and then pulling pieces off, so you don't want it like scalding hot, right? So now's a good time to produce your sauces. Also, this is a really forgiving, easy recipe for serving a crowd or like a party, something like that. And it is often a party food in Korea. I like to make this around the holidays, like for a Christmas banquet, something like that. It's a really nice thing in people sharing and that sort of deal. Very festive. But you can keep the pork, I'd put some foil over it, and if you have like a warmer, like a warm setting on your oven, it can just hang out there, and it's just going to get nicer, more tender as it sits. Okay, so there's our scallion or green onion and ginger, and now I'm going to go ahead and add the neutral oil. So this is just some canola oil here. Neutral oil, just meaning it doesn't have a lot of flavor it's bringing with it. So it's not a peanut oil or an olive oil, which have lots of flavor, right? It's like canola oil, safflower oil, grapeseed oil, sunflower oil. These are all good neutral oils you could use here. A little bit of rice vinegar and a little bit of salt. And that's it. And then once again, this is nice if you let it sit for a few minutes, let everything kind of gel and marinate, and it just gets better. And it's a sauce you might want to double and make sure you have some leftovers. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. The challenge here is to keep track of all your sauces and sides, right?
Chef Sam, are you using seasoned rice vinegar or just a plain? What would you recommend?
Well, I recommend unseasoned. Yeah, so rice vinegar is sold. There's a seasoned version, and that usually has sugar and salt added. I prefer unseasoned because then, I can control those parts of it, or sometimes, you want rice vinegar, which doesn't have the salt and sugar. Speaking of vinegar, another accompaniment to this dish is like a quick pickle, and you can easily make a quick pickle with like a couple cucumbers sliced up, a tablespoon of sugar, and a teaspoon of salt, and just mix that. And that's already a pickle. You leave that for a few minutes or hours, and you got a nice quick pickle. And you could add a splash of rice vinegar in there too, and that would be really nice too. So you could do that with other vegetables. Thinly sliced carrots are good that way. Zucchini, all kinds of stuff. All right, so there we go. There's the ginger scallion sauce. Let's have a look at the kimchi. So this is a kimchi that is made right around where I am working out of here with this dish. And so it's nice and fresh, local. And this is a spicy kimchi that all kimchi is a little bit spicy, but there are levels and variations. And I love kimchi. All right. And it's a crunchy one. So there's our kimchi. Ooh. Ooh. And it is spicy. It's no fooling. All right, let my voice recover a moment. Wow, that was good. Okay. So kimchi's tested. and it's spicy. Um, Speaking of spicy, let's get into those jangs. So, oh, thank you. Some water. Woo, thank you so much. All right, so this being the Ssam, right? And you want the Ssam sauce, and there's Ssam jang. So jang, it means paste in Korean, and so there's a few of these jangs. There's gokujang, and so you'll find them in Asian markets, or we have the gokujang at Basics Market, and they're usually in a pack, like either like this, a bottle, or a little package like this. And basically the jangs are pastes, and they're fermented pastes, and there's some differences. So the samjang is a combination of gogujang, which is a fermented chili paste, and doenjang. And doenjang is kind of like miso, and so it's from soybeans. So if you've got doenjang and you've got gogujang, you can make your own samjang, and then use the samjang and make the sam sauce. Now, or you can just get the samjang and the gogujang and make this sam sauce. If you can't find both, or maybe you have one or the other, you can do this recipe just using one, and it's still going to taste great. You just get that much more flavor if you use both of these pastes, and it's really good. And these are great to have around anyway. The gogujang and the samjang are really good just to rub on things, meats, fish, tofu, what have you. Broil them, roast them, grill them, and it's already, you just have a nice dish right there. All right, so for this sauce, we're going to use a tablespoon of the samjang. And again, this is something you can easily double, triple, and it's not a bad thing to have around.
Are they spicy on their own?
These sauces are a bit spicy. They're also, I mean, they're packed with flavor. When you just taste these sauces alone, which I would do right now, but I need my voice. But they explode in your mouth in all directions at once, which is really exciting, and delicious. But yeah, they're salty, they're sweet, and they're spicy, basically. All those things, which it's very nice for your palate. Then we're going to go half a tablespoon of the gogujang. And you can see this is a little more chili. It's a little darker because it has more chilies. And in Korea, they just have this really wonderful culinary tradition of fermenting stuff. It has to do, with a harsh landscape for growing things, and preservation, and utilizing everything that was grown. And then it just turns into all these really full flavors, really deep flavors, and okay, and super delicious. So now we have a 1/4 cup of rice vinegar and a 1/4 cup of neutral oil. And again, I am going to be using canola oil. And I'm just going to whisk this one up a bit.
So is the base of the jang sauces chili then, dried chili, or?
Yeah, yes. Well, it's a fermented chili. So I think they're whole chilies that are fermented and then turned into a paste. And then there's some other additions to the jangs, depending on which one you're using. So that's your Ssam sauce. And again, it just simply means wrap sauce. Okay, so now we have our two sauces and our kimchi, which are all going to come into play for eating this lovely Bo Ssam. All right, next, let's look at some other things we can add in. Here's some Thai basil. Thai basil has a lot of really neat flavors. It's a little bit licorice. You know, it can have a little bit of spice. And what we can do here is just sort of tear up a few leaves. And so all this stuff, it's kind of, think of this as a taco. And you could even use, you know, like little flour tortillas, like taco size, and eat this dish, and that would be really good. You know, just anything you can kind of wrap this stuff up in. Traditionally, it's lettuce leaves. Often this dish is served with some oysters. And then that adds another dimension, flavors and textures.
Cooked oysters or?
The raw oysters usually, yeah, raw oysters, yeah. All right, so there's a little bit of basil there, and then you know cilantro is another nice addition to this dish, and we can just rough chop that. Again, you just want to be able to stuff that in your bun or your leaf or what have you. So a little bit of cilantro right there. Okay. And then I have bean sprouts here. So we'll use some bean sprouts. Let's just go ahead and pile some bean sprouts right in the middle. And now for the pork. Grab a pot holder. Okay, so here we have this beautiful pork. And again, you could do this, you know, up to like 8-9 pounds bone in if you want. It'll just take a while. We're running this at 300 degrees. So a big one, it can take like 4-6 hours. This one took about 2 hours.
Chef Sam, could you do it in a crock pot or something?
You could do this in a crock pot. You would not get the crust that you get in the oven, and a lot of this method. So the crock pot, if you did it in the crock pot, it would be more towards a traditional Bo Ssam, which is boiled, like a softer and not so, you wouldn't have the crisp, and you wouldn't, yeah, you just basically that crispy outside, which is really, to me, what I love about this version of this dish, and you know why I like to show it, because it really is amazing. So yeah, every time I taste it, it's just like ooh. And again, so simple. It's just that pork, really good pork. Again, this is our brand, Silver Sage, all natural, raised and fed by Basics Market. So we grow the food for this stuff and see it from start to finish. All right, so here we're just going to want to kind of, I guess what I'll do for this, so we can all see what's going on, I'll put that on the platter. So that could be your service, just like that. You know, and then people can take pieces as they would like and then put it in their lettuce leaf and stuff. And what that looks like So lettuce leaf, you could use, you could use kale, you could use collard greens are a really good wrap, and they're really wide. Um, Bib lettuce is sort of the traditional lettuce for this, and I'm using just a green leaf is also great for this because it, again, you kind of want something that's large, right, for wrapping, and and easy to roll up, but just kind of whatever, and of course you could have lettuce and you could have like steam buns, um, both, right? So just make a little wrapper, um, a little wrapper. I think it's a little wrapper, and then you can see the pork is very tender, and you can just sort of shred it, something like that. And I just put that in my wrapper. Um, put some bean sprouts, a little kimchi, Thai basil, cilantro, and any kind of herbs you like, and grate in here. The sage or sage, I don't know what, I guess I'm thinking of herbs. So used to saying herbs and then sage. The scallion ginger sauce. Probably sage would not go well with this, but who knows?
So is the idea that,
And then some sauce. Yes.
is this the idea that this would be a big platter in the middle of a table and everybody would make their own combinations?
Yeah, exactly. You could have a platter like this in the middle of the table, some little plates, some wrappers, and then all this stuff to put along with the meat, and then you just kind of wrap it up and eat it. Rice paper, like those Vietnamese rice paper roll-ups would be good here. So salute. Wow. Well, yeah, there's nothing much you can say about this except so good. So good. I would highly recommend you make this right away and enjoy it. Please get your pork if you're in the Portland area at a Basics Market, Silver Sage pork, and your other supplies. Yes, a question.
If you, for some reason, couldn't find shoulder, would there be any other options?
Yeah, so shoulder's a good piece of pork for this because it has a lot of richness. It has some fat in there, and what the fat does is it gives you that really nice tender meat. You could use other pieces. I would recommend asking your butcher, what else could work, but really you could you could even use a pork chop. You could use a loin, other things, but nothing's going to pull apart quite like the shoulder. The shoulder just works really nicely for these sort of slow roast sorts of deals. I mean, it's ideal for like barbecue pork, and this is kind of in that vein of like a nice slow roasted or barbecued style pork. So you really want something that's going to fall apart for you. So you're not looking for a really lean cut, but you could do this with a lean cut if you are trying to stay away from the calories or the fat, what have you, of shoulder. And it would be delicious. It just might be a little drier and not quite fall apart so easily. But again, with that tenting with the foil, the low and slow, you can pretty much get any piece of pork to eventually disintegrate at your fingertips in a delightful way. Yeah, thanks for that question. But yeah, that's sort of what I have got for you with this dish. A real quick, easy one. I mean, not quick as it spans time, but as far as your effort to make an amazing dish, pretty minimal work to payoff ratio. And again, if you're interested in making your own kimchi, I'd highly recommend that. It's very fun and interesting to make, but there are just tons of really good commercial and local kimchis also in the market. So, check those out as well, and enjoy your Ssam sauce and your ginger scallion sauce, and try them on all kinds of things. I think you'll find those are two good sauces to keep around your kitchen. Thanks for joining us with this class. If you have additional questions or comments, you can always email us at letscook@basicsmarket.com. Visit our markets and visit the website, basicsmarket.com. Look at other classes we've done in the past, other recipes we have posted. Lots of recipes on there and some cooking tips and things like that. Thanks again, and happy cooking.